we are. We're connected via Team Viewer for a remote session with David Harris and his ZX11 powered. What would you call it? A Doom buggy or? What
Yeah,
would,
the Doom buggy side.
okay, right on. Well, we got a micro squirt. He's actually running ZX12R throttle bodies. He sent me all the information on the injectors and stuff like that, so I got a base tune set up for him. He basically where he's at now is he's got it communicating. It's attempting to start or fire up, run a couple seconds, and stall. So we're just going to do a quick team viewer session here and try to get this thing running. And I'm just going to do a once over, and we're connected because you can see that the. Go ahead and shut the key off, David. We can see now we're offline. The key shut off. Okay, go ahead and turn it back on, please. I could hear the fuel pump priming there. Yep, now we're back alive again. So doing a quick once over, I'm checking my, as soon as you get the thing fired up, you obviously want to check all your temperature gauges. And where he's located in California right now is 74 degrees roughly, which is awesome. Lucky him. I'm sitting at 31 degrees right now, but okay, and TPS, it looks like he's already calibrated it. It's sitting at about 0 pretty much. So if a person was wanting to do that, you would go to calibrate TPS, and you would hit current now. He would go to wide open throttle, then we'd hit get current, then he'd go to wide open throttle, we'd hit get current, and then we'd hit accept, which he's already done that, so awesome, that's done. But one thing I did notice is look at the engine map. We're showing 40 kPa, and he's literally at sea level, so we definitely got an issue there. We're going to go into tools. Calibrate map. We have it is a GM map sensor he's running, but he wasn't 100% positive whether it was a 1 bar or 3 bar, what it was. But I'm gonna guess that it's probably a 3 bar. So let's change this to 3 bar. Burn it, and voila, about 100, 101 kPa, which is definitely what I would expect at his sea level or his elevation. So from there, everything else looks normal. I'm going to do a once over on the settings here. Kind of seeing where we're at. That all looks normal, looks good. And it may honestly been the map sensor. That could have been the reason why it was stalling or starting to die, just because I was off so much. But oh, I just went there. Check the general settings here. Yeah, okay, that all looks good. Just do a once over here. We're going to redline. The rev limit is going to be in at 11.5. And that can be changed anytime too. Do you have a tachometer wired up?
Yes, I do.
Have you verified the operation of that?
Yes, I have.
Okay, cool. So you went over here to in the test
Yep.
modes and did all that? That's awesome. Good
Yep.
deal. Good job.
Yep, your videos are nothing but good help.
Alright, appreciate it. Let's see. Anything else I want to check up on before we get cracking? Actually, I'm going to go ahead and go in here and make sure that this is shut off. I'm going to just disable this right now. This is EGO correction. Go ahead and cycle the key for me, please, David.
Do what now?
Go ahead and cycle the key, turn the key off, and then turn it back on.
Okay. We're back up.
Alrighty. So all I did there is I just turned off the EGO correction, which is basically just your O2 sensor. Your computer will try to automatically adjust the fueling as needed. And we'll turn that all back on, but right now just the initial startup and tuning, I'm just going to go ahead and have that off so I don't have the computer trying to fight against me or anything. A lot of people just leave it on because it try to help, but it's just a personal preference for me is all that is. Well, cool. Let's just go ahead and give it. Let's try to fire it up and just see what happens.
Alright, here goes start button. First fire is great.
Okay. Leave it running. I'm looking at the.
I'm idle. It's running.
Okay, go ahead and try to adjust your idle down to a reasonable number. Okay, that's probably pretty good there, David. Can you hear me?
Okay, yes I can.
Okay, great. Cool. So the map sensor looks like it was your main problem. Um,
Yep.
you notice down here on the bottom there's a W or a WUE that's warm up enrichment. That's on.
Okay.
We're running. We're running a little bit rich. We're 12-1. But we're on warm up, so I'm not real concerned about that right now. We'll go ahead and just let it run here for a little bit, and we can actually watch the warm up enrichment while we got this video going. That'd be great. Right here, see the green line? That's where where we're at, and right over here is kind of showing us that we're adding about 25%. Well, no, in between 25 and 110. So as the temperature of the coolant raises, we're actually going to start taking a little bit less fuel out. But we want to go ahead and we'll go ahead and, if you need to turn the idle up just a little bit, if it's starting to get low, that's fine. We'll go ahead and make sure the thing warms up all the way up to operating temperature, or at least until the warm up enrichment shuts off. You do have coolant and everything in it, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
Yes, I do.
good deal.
And I don't have any leaks, that's good.
Right on.
Yep.
No,
It's the first time it's been fired in ages, so I'm checking it over as we're idling.
okay, great, good idea, good job. Make sure no fuel leaks and stuff as well.
Yep. We don't have any. It's all in and fitting, so it's nice. And I got my fire extinguisher side by side, just ready in case.
Perfect.
So we're looking good.
Awesome. It's really looking good. I'm liking it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's behaving like a kid.
What?
Purring like a kid.
Good deal. What wideband controller are you using?
It's the LC1 Innovate.
Okay.
And I recently replaced it because it didn't pass the warm-up test. And we pre-air calibrated it, so it's in there and it's ready.
And have you went through the calibration on that in this?
Yes.
Okay.
No further than... No, I haven't.
Okay, go ahead and let's go ahead and shut the engine off and turn the key back on. Because our O2 sensor may not have been actually reading there, so it may I'm not actually 100% positive that it was reading correctly since we haven't went through the calibration on that. So that's a step I missed a little bit ago. Shame on me. I should have checked that earlier. So I went into tools, calibrate AFR table, and
LC1.
Yep, LC1 default. We're gonna go ahead and write that to the controller. It should ask for. Okay, it didn't ask to cycle the power, but let's just go ahead and do that. Turn the key back off and go ahead and cycle the power again.
Keys on.
Yeah, go off and then go back on again, please.
Okay, yes.
Okay, go ahead and fire it back up. Okay, there my air fuel gauge is actually reading. Before
Oh,
it was
nice.
stuck on 12.1, I thought it was running rich, but actually it wasn't running rich. We're actually running a little lean. So cool, no big deal. We'll let this thing warm up, and we'll adjust it accordingly. Actually, it's going real lean right there, so I'm gonna go ahead and actually do some adjustments, even with warm up enrichment going. But first, I'm gonna move
Quick,
I'm gonna move these gauges because it makes it easier for me to see. I like to have the
one
air.
quick note:
Go ahead.
my header comes together in a collector, and then at the end of the collector is the O2 sensor. And I put my hand around the collector, which I use the proper silicone to try to seal the collector to the tube, their individual tubes. And I can feel a little bit of leakage around the tubes from the exhaust pressure coursing past
Right.
the slip-on header. So I don't know 100% how accurate the air-fuel ratio is at the sensor due to the fact that I have a slight leakage on the header going into the collector.
Sure. And that's a really good point to bring up because actually what happens with that for people that may not know is if you have an exhaust leak, you actually have exhaust pulses. Okay, so as the pulse passes the leak, it'll let exhaust out, but then as it continues past, it creates a vacuum behind it, and it will actually draw fresh air into the exhaust. So yeah, David, you're 100% right that the O2 sensor may actually be reading a little bit on the lean side and it not really be lean. So yes, that's a very good point to bring up. And what I would do there is they actually make uh, silicone that is O2 is good for exhaust temperatures or to work on exhaust systems, and it's supposed to be O2 sensor safe. So that might be an idea, an option to go find that at your local parts store, and uh, and put some of that around. Or take your collector apart, and put it all together, and try to seal that up. Um, are you with me still, David? Are you still there? Hey, David, are you there?
Yep.
All right, we're back on. Go ahead and fire it back up, David. Okay, we're fired up. Our warm up arrangement is still going. Our coolant temp is going up nicely. But notice how lean we are. He does have a small, very small, he says, exhaust leak around the collector just before the O2 sensor. It might affect it a little bit, but not enough that we're seeing here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and highlight this whole area where it's running lean, and I'm just going to start clicking the up button. Every time I click it, I can see my air fuel ratio starting to go richer, and I'm going to go ahead and get it down to an acceptable range, even with my warm up enrichment on. Now, obviously, it's still adding fuel with warm up enrichment, so once that shuts off, we're going to have to adjust the fueling demands just a little bit. Now that I'm idling right over here in this area, I'm going to go ahead and highlight that block. Now I'm going to raise it up slightly. I'm going to give the motor what it wants. And it actually looks like we're idling pretty steady there, David. What does it sound
Yeah.
like on your end?
Yep. Right even. Little blip, but not bad. It says need to burn in red down on the lower
Yeah,
tab. That's because we're changing stuff in order to keep it in memory as a new map. That's what has to happen.
correct. Yeah, when we get done playing around here, I'm still adding fuel here, but when we get done, we'll have to hit click burn. Now, if you do hit close without clicking burn, it still automatically burns.
Oh, good.
Um, and usually, if the engine's running while you click burn, it normally stalls. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Sometimes it will kind of hiccup but still stay alive, which is fine too. But
Yep. Yep.
just kind of giving a heads up there that usually when you click burn, if it stalls, that it can be a normal characteristic. Okay, our warm up enrichment is now off. So we're pretty much just running off our fuel table right now. Uh, David, if you want, I'm gonna go ahead and click burn, and then after I click burn, it's probably gonna stall,
Yep.
and we're idled down quite a bit. So
Okay.
let's go ahead and get the idle set around 1100 after we get it started back up.
Okay. Happy burning. Yeah. So start it up and set it at 1100.
Yes, sir.
There we go.
Okay, great. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is just I'm gonna blow this up a little bit because I'm getting ready to change this from the number screen to the 3D. I'm gonna click on 3D, and I like to do this because it just gives me a little bit better of a visual. So the blue dot is where we're idling right now, and the red dot is just kind of where the cursor is. So I'm gonna use my arrow buttons. I'm gonna raise the red dot up, and you notice how it's really kind of like in the 60 area, number wise. But we kind of just one click to the right, we're down in the 40s and the 50s. That's a big jump. It's a big ramp right there, and you really don't want that. What we end up wanting, we want kind of a very smooth, gradual table.
All of a sudden, okay, just changed.
What happened there?
I don't know. It did it on its own. I didn't change anything.
Okay.
Temp is getting up there.
Yeah. Do you have fans hooked up to it?
I do, but I haven't tested it working yet.
Okay.
It hasn't come on yet.
I'm not
It
too.
might be a problem.
Well, I'm not. That's not too hot yet. I'm not worried about that.
All right.
I would want to see it kick on by probably around 220, 225.
Okay.
Is it still wired into the factory, or you have it wired up to the microsquirt?
No, it's a separate deal.
Okay.
And I can feel it warm. It's getting warm right there, so it should kick on.
Well, now your temperature went way down, so the thermostat may have kicked open.
Yeah.
Okay, so our idle went way up. Our advancement went way up to 17. And we went way lean, but that's probably just in the fueling of the table. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and try to adjust your idle back down to 1100 again. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Do you have a choke set up or anything set up on this thing?
I do, but it's off.
Okay, it is off. Okay. Okay, great. Okay, that looks a little better. For whatever reason, I don't know why that happened,
Me neither.
but the throttle jumped way up, and it now we got it back down where it needs to be. So let's go back to this fuel table like I was doing, and I'm gonna smooth all this.
Have to keep an eye on that. It'd be nice to keep an eye on that temp gauge just because the fan hasn't come on yet.
Oh,
Oh, there it did it again, huh?
Okay. Our temperature is climbing back up again. Your fan never kicked on earlier?
It has not, no.
Okay.
I'm trying to keep an eye on it. And I got a feeling. Yeah, it's warm on the temp gauge. Why it's not going on. I could wire it correct if I had to.
I think on my personal bike, the factory fan doesn't kick on to around that 220 mark, and then it cools down to about 200 and then shuts off.
Yeah.
Just kind of give you an idea.
Yeah, so maybe we just keep an eye on it and hope that it does behave. but that was odd. It just did that same thing again where it jumped up, and you could see on the table where it moved down into another area.
Sure, yeah. Well, what I'm going to go ahead and do here is maybe idling high because it's idling so lean too. I'm going to go ahead and change a lot of this.
Yep.
I'm going ahead and richen this up. See if that will get the idle to come back down. But it doesn't act like it's going to.
That did it.
Okay, well, I'm going to burn that, and it should stall. It might stall. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go over here to ignition table. And I'm going to change this to 10. I'm going to equals 10. Because the factory motorcycle idles around 10. Then I'm going to take all this and I'm going to smooth it to the right. So we should end up having a pretty smooth ignition change. I'm going to burn that. It may stall. Go ahead and start it back up, please. We're still idling around. We're up around.
Yeah, it just picked up when it restarted.
16. And smooth that up. Highlight this and smooth it down and up and down. Smooth that to the right. I'm thinking what was happening was we were originally idling here and then something happened and it made the RPMs go up. Then once it moved over down around here,
the fan kicked on. Good news.
Okay, that's good. Good deal. And once the timing got up, then it wouldn't idle back down. It's almost what it seems like. I'm going to burn that. You can go ahead and start it back up for me. Well, I didn't pay attention what the temperature was when
My oil pressure gauge is not showing oil pressure for some odd reason, and it is a hard line to a pressure gauge. Oh, it's showing a little bit. That's odd.
You give it a little RPM. What is it?
I'm gonna shut it off and double check that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I'm just gonna check the oil level real quick because I did have the thing apart, and I did have the oil cooler disconnected, and I don't remember adding oil back into the system when I reconnected it, so it might be low on oil. So that's something I need to check. About 15 pounds at idle.
Okay, good. Oh, I'm glad you've seen that. That could have been all bad.
Yeah.
And I went ahead and added a little temperature thing here so we can just kind of keep an eye on that.
Okay.
Over here, once I have the other windows open, it kind of covers up my temperature gauge.
Yep.
And then I was playing around and I changed this other gauge, and I don't remember which one it was. Is it that one? I don't know how. I can't remember how I had the ring around it, but you can play around that and change that later if you want. Customize your gauge. Did you know that you can like use an old phone or a tablet and mount it on your buggy there and use and put all the
Thing right there.
and put all these.
Have the whole gate.
Yeah, you can put all any gauge you want up there. You know, as long whatever the computer sees, anyways. Okay. So oil pressure, everything's still looking good.
Are you back online recording?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Is your oil pressure gauge all working?
Yes, it is.
Okay, good deal. Might keep an eye on that fan and while I'm playing around with this.
Yep. I definitely will.
In the meantime, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to go back to this dude right here, and I'm gonna blow this up just a little bit. Oh, that's the wrong one. Right here. I'm gonna blow that up a little bit so I can see a little bit better. But we want to make sure we basically want this all to be smooth and not look like the Rocky Mountains like it looks right now. So I'm gonna hit shift, and it kind of grabs that point I'm at, and I'm gonna raise it up. I'm gonna let off the shift button, move down here. I can hit shift and hit the up cursor. See how I'm raising raising it all up. So I'm just gonna manually come in here, and I'm just gonna manually smooth this up. Sounds good, doesn't it?
Oil pressure's still good. Not as high as I'd like to see, but I don't really trust the gauge. At least it's showing pressure.
How's your fan doing?
It's on. Yep, it's running, so we're good. Yep. Looks like it needs a little bit more oil on that. So.
Now, if I hit hold Control and Shift and press up, it raises it the value by 5. with one up key. And if I just hold shift by itself, it just does one value at a time for every upstroke or up of the cursor button, the up cursor button. Okay. Now that we got that just a little more leveled out, and I'm basically I'm just hand poking at this map is all I'm doing. I'm just kind of by hand fine tuning it, making it a little bit more, reasonable, where hopefully it'll be good enough that you can actually start riding it, or at least driving it. And do you have a way, like with a phone, or I guess you can strap your tablet in this thing, can't you?
Yeah, I can get a buddy in the passenger seat and monitor the laptop as I'm driving it.
Okay, that'll be awesome. Because do you have the registered version of Tuning Studio?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so yeah, you can go to the VE Analyze tab, and you can have it just while you're riding it, auto tuning. So that could be really useful for you. It's a little harder on our motorcycles to do that. I have to use my phone to data log and then come back and download that onto the Megalog viewer application and go from there. But auto tune that way. But okay, I'm going to go ahead and burn this. It may stall.
Okay.
It stayed going though, didn't it? Good deal.
Yes, it did. I'm here now.
Okay, so right now it seems like we're holding pretty good and steady on your RPMs and your air fuel ratio. So at the moment I'm going to go ahead and close that out. I'm going to run back over the ignition map, and I'm going to make sure that we stay in this 10 region at idle. Because what happens is if our map or something drops and we drop down here and get in the 16 to 20 area, that's actually going to make our RPMs rise. For an example, if I was literally to just increase my timing right now, it's going to increase torque in the motor. And it should theoretically increase my my RPMs. See how I kind of up to 1,300 RPMs just by increasing a couple degrees. So I'm going to take that back down to 10. Go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and burn it. It may stall.
Okay.
Go ahead and restart it.
Yep.
And when it starts up, does it start up pretty quick?
Yeah, right now. Beautiful.
Okay, good deal. Something we can do, like if I don't know how cold it gets in your area, but if it does get really cold, sometimes increasing the cranking pulse or the priming pulse can help it give just a little bit more fuel. Like in this table here, it's got the air fuel, or your temperature down the bottom. So let's say at 70 degrees. It just acts like it needs a little bit more fuel. You can raise that dot up and kind of smooth that line out, and that'll increase fuel while you're cranking. The priming pulse, that's actual that you can increase fuel. Like when you first turn the key on, it does an initial prime of fuel, and based off of your temperature, you can increase a little bit extra fuel as soon as you prime it, or as soon as you turn the key on. It does a real quick pulse of fuel. Now, let's say you start it when it's colder. You start it and it right as soon as you start it, it kind of stalls or stumbles like right after it starts. Your cranking and your priming, your cranking could be good, but your after start. So this is how much percent fuel after it starts. How much fuel is kind of a little extra fuel that's added, and it's not a very long time. You can actually adjust how long too by the taper. That's how many cycles per temperature you actually adding that after start fuel. Um, and for the most part, you may not have to play with any of this at all. The warm up enrichment you probably will have to play with. But what's great is if you click right here on Tune Analyze Live, this is your auto tune feature that you're going to use. Have you seen this any or played around in this screen any?
Haven't, no.
Okay.
No.
So you're going to click here, and basically, if you click start auto tune, it will just start automatically. And we'll just do it real quick. It'll start automatically adjusting fuel to match your AFR table. So right now you can see this weight cell. You can see where it's changing, or actually right here where it's changing your fueling to try to make your fueling match your air fuel ratio gauge or table. I'm gonna go
In
ahead and
all the air fuel ratio table, you put in the parameters at what load, what speed do you think it should have air fuel wise, and that's what it's talking with right now.
correct right underneath the fuel settings AFR table. This is what it's going to adjust to.
Yep.
It's going to match. Now you can change this and alter this however you desire. Since you're naturally aspirated, I normally try on the full throttle ranges. I always try to stay around 13.0. They seem to make pretty good power. If I was turbocharged on pump gas, I would go like 11.0, 11.5 under boosted when you're boosting. But since you're naturally aspirated, I would just stay at 13.0. On a dyno, a person 13, your motor may do better at 12.5, or maybe do better at 12.3 or 13.3. You just have to have it on a dyno to find out what the motor likes the best. But 13.0 is a really good number. That's a really good number to stay at. Cruising, you're not going to really get concerned about that. But if it was on a street application where you're cruising, this kind of would be my cruising area. I would try to lean that out to try to conserve fuel. But in your case, you're probably not going to care about any of that. You could probably make your idle area around 13.8, 13.7, and then make everything else down around here 13.5 and 13.0 up top here. You'd probably be fine because you're probably going to do a lot of full, on and off the throttle kind of stuff, right? Your throttle is probably going to be more of a light switch than a throttle. It's either going to be on or it's going to be off. At least that would be my guess. So yeah, whenever you guys hook this thing up and you got your buddy riding with you, just go to your Tune Analyze Live. Get it up to operating temperature, of course, and then click Start Auto Tune, and just go out ripping around and playing with it, and just kind of let it automatically adjust your fueling as it sees it. You need it. Now there's advanced settings here that you can change. You can cell resistance. Let's say you get your tune really close and really good. Well, you're going to change this to very hard. What basically means is it's going to be really hard for it to make any changes. So if you have a pretty rough tune, you want to make it easy to make changes. I usually just leave it on normal at first, but then when my tune gets really good and really close, I start changing it to hard or even very hard. And you can also play, let's say your idle's perfect, so you're like, hey, I don't want it to mess with my idle. So you can change your minimum RPM, raise it up to whatever you desire to tune at. Same with let's say you're above 8,000 RPMs, your tune's in really good shape. So, lower your max RPMs. Same, you can change your loading. If you don't, on decel, like if you're decelling really hard and you're around, 30 to 10 on your gauge or on your fuel map, and you don't really need it to do any fueling changes there, you can raise your minimum load range up from 0 to whatever, to 30 or 35. But yeah, you can just play around with that. Of course, your minimum coolant level, that is going to be the minimum temperature it has to be before it even starts making adjustments. So it's set to 160, and I usually kind of leave it there too. I want my motor to be at least 160 degrees before I start adjusting fueling. How about go ahead and can you blip the throttle a couple times and just kind of see how the motor
Love to.
reacts?
I've been waiting to hear that forever.
Go for it. See how it reacts.
Got a flat spot right after.
Yeah, it's gonna definitely need some the fuel table adjustments here. Go ahead and do that a couple more times for me.
Okay. The one beauty is the oil pressure came right up with the RPM, so that's good.
I tell you what, just for the fun of it, I'm gonna go ahead and go here to auto tune, and I'm gonna start the tune. Go ahead and do that some more.
Keep going? Okay.
Yeah. Is the throttle stick? Okay. Go ahead and let it idle.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead and let it idle for a second.
Okay, there we go.
Um, let me stop the auto tune here. I'm gonna apply it and then save it to the computer. Oh, it stayed running. Good deal. Sorry, I had a little one down here that started
Yeah. No problem.
playing.
They're important.
Um,
Coolant just got hot or something. Doesn't look that way on the flight. Okay, but
is your
you
fan
know,
is your fan running?
fan's off and the gauge amp is going.
Yeah. Go ahead and shut her down. Go ahead and kill the engine.
Yep.
Yeah, it was kind of 2:30. It was kind of getting up there. I would think the fan should have been on by then.
It seems to click on when it's supposed to. For some odd reason, I don't know that coolant gauge on the dash is telling me the same thing as the coolant gauge on the buggy's coolant gauge is related to the fan coming on and off. Yeah, that one was odd.
Where do you have the coolant temp sensor located at for the micro squirt?
It is right coming for the micro squirt. So the one that clicks the fan on is in a different location than the micro squirt one. The one that clicks the fan on is leaving the radiator. The one for the micro squirt is on the return tube coming back to the motor after the solenoid.
Thermostat?
After the thermostat, correct.
Yeah. Well, I usually put mine in a thermostat housing.
Okay, I can tap it in there. I
Well,
can put a plug and tap it into the thermostat housing.
e-
Um,
either way, 230 degrees, regardless. That's getting up there pretty hot.
so yeah, which is odd to me because the dash wasn't showing it being hot and the fan wasn't kicked on. So unless the gauge, there's two gauges, one temp gauge kicks the fan on, and the other one talking to the micro squirt. They're not talking for some reason.
Well, the other,
In that case,
yeah,
certain case, because the fan would have come on like it has in the past at around 220.
well,
If it were truly that hot.
yeah. I wonder too if the thermostat is sticking on you.
Yeah, it could be.
Because
There's a little
if it's
there's a
sticking,
little hole drilled in the thermostat, and the stock gauge, the original one that's in the thermostat housing, is on the dash still. I kept that gauge intact just because more knowledge is better than none.
right?
It's not showing it hot. It's showing it mid-range. It's showing it, it's showing it in the original gauge. It's showing it about a third of the way up, and the fan didn't kick on. And when that one goes up a little higher, the fan kicks on. So those two seem to be talking correctly. For some reason, the micro squirt gauge, which is located after the thermostat, is the one that was giving us that high reading.
Oh, can you go ahead and turn just the key on, engine off?
Sure. Yep. Turn the key on now.
Yeah.
Yep. There we are.
Well, it may be, and this may be my fault again. I jumped over something. I guess I was thinking you'd already done this. The coolant temp sensor, we don't have it selected, so that's probably why.
Okay.
I'm going
There
in
you go.
GM. I'm writing the cooler, or writing to controller. Excuse me. And we probably didn't do that to the air temperature sensor also.
No, didn't.
Okay.
Like I said, the only two things I had done was the cranking pulse for the timing light on the timing, and the tach verification. The rest we had set.
Okay, I'm sorry. That's my fault then.
No big. Yep.
Okay, so really, next time this thing cools all the way down, like tomorrow, next time you play with it, after it's been on a cold soak, go ahead and double check your manifold air temp and your coolant temp sensors. Make sure they read
Yep.
relatively the same.
Yeah, reasonable.
Yeah, plus or minus maybe 5 degrees or so. That's the first thing I did when I fired it up, and I seen them at 72, and you said that's about where it was. So in my mind, I think I was just thinking that they were good to go. So
Yeah.
now I don't know. Let's go ahead and fire it back up again. Maybe the temp sensor is going to read correctly.
What the beauty is, this thing fires up right now every time. Yoo-hoo.
Yeah, that's awesome. And my after starter Richmond is on right now. Now it's off. I don't know if you've seen that thing shut off. I was just pointing it out. You should get used to seeing that, basically, is what I'm getting at. Okay, so let's just see. Smooth that up.
Fan came on like it was supposed to. Yep.
Well, I'm still showing 226, 224. Well, that's going down, I guess. Maybe.
Yeah. It just kicked on. It died.
Oh, I burned it. That's my fault.
Okay.
Yeah,
Heard it.
yeah. Go ahead and start it, please.
The other good thing that happened when it died is the oil pressure light on the dash came on. So I know I've got oil pressure
Yep.
sufficiently at idle to keep that gauge off.
Yep. Yeah, about 230 is my temperature where I'm shutting things off. I don't go above 230. That's kind of my magic number. Um,
Yep.
and another thing too, when it gets up to operating temperature, make sure your hoses have some pressure. Like just kind of squeeze it. We want to make sure water boils at 212 degrees, but not under pressure.
Yep.
So we need to make sure
Okay.
that the system is pressurized and stays pressurized. Like make sure the cap is good and everything.
Yep. Right, yeah.
Yeah,
Right
absolutely.
now it bumps right up against there and comes on immediately. We can give it a little bit of breathing room.
Yeah, you just go into designer mode and let's see. Try to remember properties maybe. Okay, yeah. So let's just do. Warning high. Let's do how much?
230. You said you like 230.
Well, let's do warning at like 225,
Okay.
and let's do critical high at 230.
Okay.
Where I thought there was a save button, but they may have changed that on the. Did it change automatically? Okay, yeah, it changed for us.
Yes, it did.
There we go.
Yep. Sweet.
I'm disable that. Designer mode. Okay, cool. Actually, I'll just leave. I was going to go ahead and change the critical or the warning low up to 160. That way, you know that you don't want to do any adjustments.
Okay.
Fuel adjustments below, but that's really not really that important. Well, cool. Everything's looking pretty good there. We might be just slightly high on the idle. Do you mind turning it down again just a little bit?
I can.
All right, can you just kind of blip the throttle really quickly? Like you're gonna stab the throttle real hard.
Like hard.
Yeah. Okay, do that again. How did it seem to react right at least initially when you hit it?
It seems like it's coming. It doesn't feel flat at all. It doesn't feel like it's flat when I stab it.
Okay, it seems responsive.
Yes. Not super crisp, but responsive.
Okay.
Feels a little flat coming off idle though.
Do it again.
Like it. That area seems flat.
Yeah, we're going real lean on that area. All right, try it again.
Backfired. Huh? It's backfiring now. Okay, stop. Did it again. Yeah, it's backfiring for some reason.
Oh, that's weird.
Hear that? Hear it?
I don't hear it, but I see it acting on the. I see it acting
There
on
it
the
is again.
gauges.
Yeah, it's popping.
Is it act like it's running rough?
Pardon?
Is it act like it's running rough? Like it's misfiring?
Only once in a while it pops. It feels like it's struggling to get up there, like it's steam coming up on the pipe. And then it started popping after I did those, but it's idling okay now. There it went and popped one more time. It seems like it's only one cylinder that pops.
Well, that's what I was wondering if maybe. What are you running as far as ignition system? Like coil? Are you running coil packs or
Yeah, no, the four
stick
independents with the quad spark.
with the quad spark? Okay, and and we have new spark plugs in it.
We don't, but we could put them in.
Yeah, that might be an idea of something because it seemed like it was running doing pretty good just not too long ago. You
Yeah,
know.
now it's part.
I'm gonna go ahead and burn it. It's probably gonna stall. Oh, it didn't, did it? Huh? Look at that. Yeah, because I'm
The
seeing.
fan's keeping good track of keeping the temperature right.
Yeah,
It's on at the right time and cools it back down.
yeah, I'm liking that. Is it still? Is this? See, I think we got. It sounds like it's missing right there.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Um.
That just was really smooth right then. Better than it was. It got better since last time I flipped it.
Yeah, but you notice idling now. We're idling really rich.
Yep. Yep.
So I'm thinking we've got maybe a plug that's down, or
Okay.
I
Yeah,
mean
yeah.
maybe even a
So
coil.
we could do a plug replacement to see if it gets better. I don't have them now. I could get them
Yeah.
today and install them today and do another section at another time. That's up to your call.
Okay. Yeah, we'll go ahead and end it here. Yeah, I think we need to get that addressed, and then
Yep.
assuming you put plugs or whatever you end up finding, if it's a coil that's cut out or whatever the case is, it may be worth your time to do. Uh, you can go ahead and shut it off if you want. There's no reason to keeping it running if it's
Okay.
missing.
Yeah, yeah.
But you can even pull the coils out and under your inject. Have you done the output test with your spark and
Yes.
injector?
On the 1/5 coil, I've done that.
Yeah, you can go ahead and go in and while you're doing the plug change, just go ahead and do a coil test to make sure your coils are firing.
Okay, so go through 1, 2, 3, 4, and just make sure they all. Or it's just the two should fire at once, and the other two should fire at once. Right?
Correct.
Because they're split. Yep.
Correct. Yeah, you just enable that and have them. You can do the spark test that way. And
So I need to just probably run a ground to something that's for sure ground, or make sure that the plug's sitting on something grounded. Yep, and then turn it over and watch.
yeah, I usually just stick a plug in it and then ground the plug. Yeah, and watch
Yep,
and
yep.
visually see it spark. Just to make sure that you didn't have a coil cut out on you.
Yep, yep. And actually, when I was doing the first startup, one of the coils, I thought I saw a spark go between the rubber insulation around the circle, which mine don't fit completely snug against the head. I thought I saw a spark
Oh,
coming
okay.
off of the coil going to the head.
Okay.
And it was just something I glimpsed out of my corner of my eye, and I ignored it because it ran. But that might be the culprit right there. There might be, and that might be why these coils were on eBay.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I mean, it's something to keep in mind. Yeah, but
Sure.
if
So
you get
I'll
it,
do the plug change. I'll test the spark, and I'll also look them over real careful for any kind of cracks or anything. They were off a ZX600, so maybe I'll go on eBay and try to find one just in case I have to replace one.
well, I use ZX tens, and they fit perfect in
Yes.
my the ZRX motor, which I believe is
Okay.
the same as yours. So
So I can look for those ZX10s. Okay.
yeah,
Sounds good.
and
So give me a homework assignment.
sure. And if it seems to run fine when you get it all back together, if you want to just go ahead and try to your VE analyze live, and just auto
Uh,
tune it, and if is it drivable?
I need to go through and bleed all the brakes, and the wiring right now is a bundle of mess. I need to refine that a little bit, and so there's some logistics before I take it and run it.
Okay. Well, say, I mean, about all I can do here is, your blip throttle stuff and your idle. The rest of the
Yes.
stuff really needs to be done with a load. You know what I mean? Like loading the
Yep. You
engine.
bet.
So,
So there's a dry lake bed in my neighborhood up an hour and a half away. Once I get everything in that lower area, seem like it's behaving, I can take it up on the dry lake bed and run a light load on the flat lake bed until it starts behaving properly, and keep you informed as to what's going on with it, and we can sort through it as that goes.
awesome.